what is it that it needs to achieve in terms of its objective. The ANC has recognized that agriculture, ecotourism, and cultural tourism present some of the greatest opportunity to significantly grow our economy and create jobs. It is against the backdrop that SAPS should therefore ensure that these activities are conducted in a safe and secure environment. As I conclude, Chairperson, as long as our people in the rural areas are still facing the threat of crime and live in the utter poverty, we will not rest and wallow in the joy of freedom. We must work tirelessly to ensure that the safety of rural communities and development of rural areas for a better life for all, for rural communities, it is advanced and achieved. And we would want to thank all women, youth, and people who have heard to the clear call of the ANC by saying that everybody needs to be included in terms of building this country, be it on socio-economic issues, be it on safety issues, be it on health issues, be it on education. As Honorable Brett would have indicated, the challenges that this particular RSS, if not implemented, those are the challenges that the country will face. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mananiso. I'm now inviting Honorable Gauteng.
Geagte voorsitter, lede en mede-Suid-Afrikaners. Ons land se boere werk vanaf die son soggens opkom tot laat vanaand. Nie net om kos op hul tafels te sit nie, maar op die tafels van miljoene Suid-Afrikaners. Hulle bewerk hul grond, kom wind of weer, en lewer hulself nie net uit aan die genade van die natuur se uitdagings nie. Hulle laat hulle self ook oor aan die genade van 'n regering wat van hulle vergeet het. Suid-Afrika se landelike ekonomie is soos 'n verwaarloosde oes. Dit het die potensiaal om te floreer, maar in plaas daarvan kwyn dit onder die hitte van swak dienslewering en 'n krisis in landelike veiligheid. At the heart of this problem is a government that has treated our rural areas like distant relatives. They know they're there, but they haven't bothered to check in for years. Rural South Africa, which has historically been the lifeblood of our economy, is now suffering from a lack of basic services, deteriorating infrastructure, and unsafe communities. The ANC's oversight, or rather lack thereof, has left these communities to fend for themselves. The safety crisis in rural areas has reached dangerous proportions. Without safety, how can anyone invest in or build a life in these areas? Our rural economy needs safety as its foundation. If our farmers and farm workers are too fearful to work the land, food security suffers, employment opportunities dwindle, and local businesses cannot survive. We're not just losing lives, we're losing livelihoods and futures. For an economy to thrive, it needs reliable infrastructure and services, roads to move goods, healthcare facilities to ensure a healthy workforce, and electricity to power their machinery. Yet, in South Africa's rural areas, these essential services are nearly non-existent. Roads are crumbling, and that makes it harder for farmers to bring products to market. Poor service delivery in rural areas is nothing short of a betrayal. This is a government that has promised development, yet it has forgotten the very people who provide the backbone for our food supply and primary industries. The failure to provide basic services and infrastructure is strangling rural businesses, preventing job creation, and further deepening poverty. In the ANC-run Eastern Cape province, 16 of the 39 municipalities, mostly rural, are in severe financial distress, whilst half of the district municipalities are under administration. Municipal debt owed to Eskom has ballooned to more than 3.5 billion rand. How can you run a business and employ people in circumstances such as this? On the other hand, the Umgeni municipality in the adjacent KZN province was rescued from ANC ruin in 2021. After just 3 years, the DA-led Umgeni municipality is debt-free. They pay Eskom ahead of schedule. And whilst they only had 2 law enforcement vehicles when they took over, they now have 7. They support youth-owned businesses with equipment to grow their businesses. Last year, they spent over 100,000 Rand on this project, and on the 3rd of October this year, they gave 1.5 million Rand worth of equipment to SMMEs in this municipality to help them grow. Investors are flocking to Umgeni because the DA government there responsibly allocates taxpayers' money to tackle the severe backlog in road and stormwater maintenance, which they inherited from the previous ANC leadership. The same is done with electricity infrastructure. The DA believes South Africa's rural economy should be celebrated, supported, and secured, not sidelined. Our vision is clear. 1, rural safety is a priority. The DA proposes a specialized rural safety plan with dedicated rural policing units and community partnerships to create safer rural communities where farmers, farm workers, and their families feel protected and supported. 2, restoring basic services and infrastructure. We cannot have a functioning rural economy without proper infrastructure. The DA would prioritize rural infrastructure development, focusing on roads, healthcare, and energy access. We would partner with private stakeholders to create resilient solutions that meet rural needs, ensuring that resources reach these communities. 3, encouraging rural entrepreneurship and agriculture. Our rural areas are filled with untapped potential. By offering incentives, skills development, and access to markets, we can empower rural entrepreneurship, helping to uplift local economies and to create jobs. 4, efficient resource allocation and accountability. The DA believes in accountable governance, where funds are used effectively and local government is held responsible for service delivery. All of this is exactly what I've just told you happened in Umgeni. Ladies and gentlemen, rural South Africa isn't some dusty old photograph we keep in our national scrapbook. It's alive, it's vital, and it deserves our respect and our support. But right now, the government treats these communities like an afterthought, only remembering them during election season when a few hastily made promises will do. Dit is tyd om hierdie storie te herskryf. Die DA is hier om daardie verwaarloosde oes water te gee en om nuwe lewe aan ons landelike ekonomie te skenk. In die DA se toekoms floreer elke hoek van ons mooi land, van die plase tot in die stede, en is hulle veilig. Ons kan nie toelaat dat ons landelike ekonomie wegkwyn nie. Kom ons bring nuwe lewe aan ons plattelandse gemeenskappe deur die hartklop van ons landelike ekonomie te ondersteun. Dankie.
I thank you, Honourable Member Gauteng. I'm now inviting MEC from Limpopo for Economic Development, Environment and Tourism, Honourable Matibe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the NCOP, to House Chairpersons, the Chief Whip of the NCOP, Honourable Members, the Deputy Minister of Police, Honourable Matale, and my fellow MEC present here. Good day, the Masiari. It was the country's icon who once said in his book titled Conservation with Myself, and I quote, "As long as many of our people still live in utter poverty, as long as children still live under plastic covers, as long as many of our people are still without jobs, no South African should rest and wallow in the joy of freedom," close quote. Limpopo Province, Honorable Chairperson, has been experiencing slow economic growth, reflecting low level of industrial activities in local economies, especially in township and rural areas. Majority of our SMMEs, cooperatives, and informal businesses are constrained by a myriad of challenges impeding them from growth and sustainability, especially those operating in rural areas. Despite all these challenges, Chairperson, of limited access to roads, water, and requisite machinery and equipments, that negatively affects the sustainability of our businesses. We still have other challenges that are experienced by these businesses, especially exclusion from accessing financial support due to stringent qualification criteria by development financial institutions. That presents an added pressure because they do not have collateral assets to secure business loans. We acknowledge the need for supplementary effort geared towards transforming these local economies, empowering local entrepreneurs to claim their livelihoods back. The development support mechanisms and interventions that directly talk to township and rural enterprise challenges have been developed, including the red tape reduction programs introduced to support local municipalities. The main limitation in effective implementation of this program, which is sufficient funding to adequately capacitate this enterprise. However, strategic partnership with public and private sector to leverage available resources for enterprise support are currently pursued to ensure integrated and well-coordinated approach to implement the enterprise development programs. Furthermore, the Department of Small Business Development, supported by the provincial government, including LEDET, is currently formulating a national policy on township economy revitalization, which will subsequently be customized for Limpopo province. Honorable Chairperson, the national policy is intended to create an enabling environment for growth and development of township economy, focusing on SMMEs and informal businesses by coordinating multiple support geared for township economy into coherent whole and propose innovative financing instrument accordingly. Furthermore, the national policy will support the development of all the sectors in township, for instance, especially the manufacturing sector that is currently operating at a low base. The policy will focus the drive on economies of rural areas. Developing such policy will unlock the full potential of township economy, which can address unemployment, stimulate economic growth, foster entrepreneurship, empower communities, reduce inequalities, and contribute to overall well-being and development of historically disadvantaged people and rural areas. In the interim, LEDET, through its Limpopo Economic Development Agency, as an implementing agent of the department, plays a significant role in providing support to our local enterprise. The support includes formalization, registration of businesses through strategic partnership, which include companies and intellectual property commission, facilitation of access to markets, implementation of incubation program to provide focused development support to beneficiaries for growth and sustainability. Provide both business and technical skills training and facilitation of access to finance through strategic collaboration with development finance institutions. Development of operational business plan and profile. We are currently, Chairperson, working on establishing an enterprise development and support fund aimed at empowering and capacitating local enterprise to participate effectively and efficiently in the mainstream economy. The main objective, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, is to strengthen this business to increase their productivity and competitiveness. On issues around infrastructure, for example, roads infrastructure, the Limpopo province, under the leadership of our Premier, Dr. Popira Matuba, to deal with the backlog of rural roads and infrastructure, we have introduced a program called the Wednesday, which we, using our own internal staff and machinery, we are able to deal with all the challenges in relation to access to roads in rural areas. And we have got full collaboration with the South African Police Service and all our community policing forums in our province. And we are working together to ensure that there is safety in the rural areas. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Matibe Ndolebwang Amanda. I'm now inviting Honorable Mokoena.
It's going. Good day. I'd like to firstly greet my president, Jacob Zuma, in absentia. I would love to also greet the honorable chairperson of the NCOP, Mama Wetu. I would love to greet the chief whip of the NCOP, as well as the deputy minister of police. The rural economy is sustained and driven by several interconnected elements: agriculture, agribusiness, natural resource utilization, rural tourism, infrastructure development, to mention a few. But sadly, South Africa's rural economy is collapsing, and it's not because of an unavoidable crisis, but it's because of years of neglect, corruption, and multiple factors contributing to its decline. What we are seeing in rural South Africa is not just an economic disaster, it is humanitarian tragedy. Equally troubling is the poor service delivery that leaves rural communities without proper infrastructure, education, healthcare, and basic amenities. The numbers paint a bleak picture. Rural areas make up 80% of South Africa's landmass and are home to near a third of our population. They contribute 10% to our GDP through agriculture and supporting over 850,000 jobs. Yet rural poverty remains shockingly more than double the rate of urban areas. Smallholder farmers who produce 30% of our nation's food receive less than 5% of agricultural funding. These stats are not just numbers, they are death sentence for millions of South Africans. And I heard the Deputy Minister, as well as Honorable Mananiso, breaking down a very, very impressive stats. But I had to pinch myself and ask myself, or what's going on? Because in as much as we can honestly say that the Department of Police is definitely working, unfortunately, crime is increasing every day. In the past year alone, there have been 1,000 farm attacks, resulting in 88 murders. Livestock theft, a lifeline for many rural families, cost the economy about 1.4 billion annually. Women in rural areas suffer, as provinces like Eastern Cape and Limpopo report the highest rate of gender-based violence in the rural areas. Many women live in constant fear, knowing the nearest police station is very, very far away. Additionally, we must address the growing teenage issues, including depression, teenage pregnancies, suicide, and increase in drugs in the rural society. These societal changes not only hinder personal development, but also affect the future of our rural economy. It is most shameful that in my beloved province of KwaZulu-Natal, municipalities like Ugu District continue to fail in providing basic services to their people, despite support from the province. This long-standing neglect in rural areas is a clear sign of failure as basic needs like water, sanitation, healthcare, and housing remain unmet. We also seeing a glaring absence of infrastructure for sports, arts, and culture, things that could keep the kids growing in the urban area, in the rural areas. And while urban areas boast swimming pools and cultural facilities, rural areas still struggle to meet even the most basic requirements. Even troubling is the rising poor standard of RDP houses that we are seeing. Many lack basic features such as indoor flushable toilets, leaving people without proper access to essential services. And Deputy Minister, as I was listening to you, I realized that perhaps we didn't give you the right correspondence for when you come here, because what we wanted is it's not a performance review. What we wanted you to tell us is where the challenges are and where the struggles are, because as I said before, your department is working, but unfortunately, crime is rising. The government's rural safety strategy, as an example, has failed spectacularly. Fewer and fewer South African SAPS officers are dedicated to rural safety nationwide. And I heard you saying, talking about the CPF as well as the Eyes and Ears project. It's working magnificently in the urban areas. Perhaps we need to do a little bit more in the rural areas so that it is effective. The truth is, crime is increasing, but crime is not just one part of this crisis in KZN, as 40% of rural farmers are reporting losses of access to markets because of poor road conditions, costing the province 2 billion annually. Water and sanitation are another failure. Nearly 40% of rural households lack access to clean drinking water, and cholera outbreaks are becoming alarmingly frequent. In clinics, which are often understated and under-equipped, rural patients wait months and months for essential medication. Pregnant women face a horrifying reality, with maternal mortality rates 5 times higher in rural areas than in urban areas. Chairperson, imagine this: a farmer cannot get their produce to the market because of roads. A child walks 10 kilometers of school only to find there's no teacher and worse, no electricity on a cold day. An elderly woman waits in pain for months before her local clinic has medication. Sometimes no doctors, just nurses. This is not a hypothetical scenario. This is a daily reality of rural South Africans. The inequality between rural and urban South Africa is staggering. In 2023, the government allocated 138 billion to infrastructure development, but only 18% of that made its way to the rural areas. The urban areas thrive while rural communities are left with decay, and the imbalance is not accident. It's a deliberate choice by government to prioritize only flashy urban projects over the basic needs of our rural people. The MK party refuses to accept this. We are here to actually assist PM. We believe in the rural economy and that we believe that it can be saved. But it requires bold, decisive action. First, we must address rural safety. This means increasing SAPS rural units, establishing rapid response teams for farm attacks, and also introducing more community policing forums around the areas. Second, we must fix rural infrastructure. At least 40% of the national infrastructure budget must be allocated to these areas. Roads must be repaired where possible and water systems installed. Electricity should also be extended as a means of safety. Third, we must support smallholder farming. The government must provide targeted grants and low-interest loan grants, while procuring policies should ensure 50% of government food contracts go to rural producers. Finally, we must clean up rural municipalities. Corruption and mismanagement are shocking still. Officials who steal from the poor must face jail time. Chairperson, if we do not act now, the collapse of rural economy will not just be for loss of rural South Africa alone, it'll be for the entire country. Kubantu ke bakithi abasemakhaya njengamanje sifuna ukusho ukuthi umkhonto wesizwe party is here. Sifikile eParliament in 2024 and we are here to stay. We are kicking down doors, sizonwela kuze kuyovalwa. Siyabonga.
Siyabonga Mhlonisha Mokoena. Ngithatha lesikhathi ngimema order, honorable member. Ngimema umhlonishwa u-Aris ukuthi azothula inkulumo yakhe so.
Was bin van julle oor nou?
Here, julle is daar maar bekommerd oor ons. Goeiemiddag, voorsitter. Voorsitter, toe die Suid-Afrikaanse Nobelpryswenner van letterkunde, J.M. Coetzee, die eerste keer sy boek Disgrace in 1999 gepubliseer het baie van ons gevoel dat die boek heeltemal te pessimisties was oor die lyding en die ontbering wat hy vir landelike gemeenskappe voorsien het. Vandag, 30 jaar later, na die eerste sogenaamde demokratiese verkiesing op 27 April 1994, moet ek met hartseer en diepe pyn in my hart erken dat baie van die skande van ontbering wat Coetzee voorspel het, gebeur het. Hoekom is dit die geval? Voorsitter, in die hart van die ondergang van ons landelike ekonomie en die gevolglike agteruitgang van die lewens van miljoene van ons mede-Suid-Afrikaners, lê die verraadelike mislukking van die ANC as 'n voormalige nasionale bevrydingsbeweging om die grond terug te gee aan inheemse Suid-Afrikaners wat die regmatige eienaars is. Een van die eerste foute wat die ANC ooit kon gemaak het, was om die eiendomsbesit aan die wit kolonialiste te verseker. Die aanvaarding van artikel 25 van ons diep gekompromitteerde grondwet het die lot van die onderdrukte massas swart Suid-Afrikaners verseël, met die eerste gevolge vir swart Suid-Afrikaners wat in landelike gebiede woon. Vir hulle was die enigste hoop op ekonomiese vooruitgang tot hulle grond, maar hulle is verhinder om dit te doen. As gevolg hiervan het die apartheidsmag en die ruimtelike verhoudings ongeskonde gebrei. Hierdie grove onreg is egter net vooruitgesit nie. Dit is verskerp deur verskriklike skewe ekonomiese ontwikkeling, wat ekonomiese ontwikkeling en industrialisasie in stedelike gebiede vooropgestel het. Selfs die paar en die verskriklike gebrekkige desentralisasie en ekonomiese ontwikkelingsprojekte wat onder apartheid bestaan het, is toegelaat om agteruit te gaan en uiteindelik onder die ANC-regering te disintegreer. Dit alles het gebeur terwyl apartheid se ruimtelike ontwikkeling en magsverhouding feitelik heeltemal ongeskonde gebly het. Gevolglik het 'n hele generasie na 1994 in landelike gebiede groot geword waar daar skaars nuwe werkskepingsgeleenthede is en hulle is gedoem tot 'n lewe van werkloosheid of om totaal onsekere stiksgewyse werk te doen. Vir hoofsaaklik wit boere en sake-eienaars op die platteland, distrikte en dorpe. Die bietjie sogenaamde grondhervorming wat die ANC wel in die werking gestel het net belediging tot skande gebring. Die gebruik van staatsgrond aan aspirante boere het die verskriklike korrupsie gewikkel geraak, waar 'n mens hegte familie en vriendskapsverhoudinge met ANC politici en amptenare moes hê om enige hoop te het om grond te kry. Die uiters gebrekkige en beperkte grondherstel en landbouontwikkelingsprojekte van die ANC-regering het reg van die begin af 'n korrupsie, 'n patronaatskap gewikkeld geraak. Hierdie projekte is sinies en het 'n vinnige ryk word projek vir loyale en toegewyde ANC-lede geword, wat plattelandse gemeenskappe totaal in die steek gelaat het en hulle selfs in 'n groter ontbering en wanhoop gedompel het. Die paar landelike gemeenskappe wat wel toegang tot grond gekry het, het misluk in terme van suksesvolle boerdery,
van hulle voorvaderlike grond, sonder opleiding om die nodige vaardighede te ontwikkel om te boer. Bekostigbare kapitaal is skaars beskikbaar. Ongelukkig is die landbank onder die ANC-regering totaal wanbestuur en gedegradeer, en terwyl dit onder apartheid gebruik is, onder die apartheidsregering gebruik is, as 'n instrument vir die bemagtiging en die ontwikkeling van aspirante witboere, wat dit byna totaal verlore is om aspirante swart boere te doen. Ons weet almal dat sonder doelbewuste regeringsingryping om die beskikbaarheid van bekostigbare kapitaal vir die ontwikkeling van swart besighede, insluitende opkomende boere, plase te verseker, vir opkomende boere, die handelsbanke met groot wit monopoly kapitaal beoefen almal rasseprofilering, wat dit uiters moeilik maak vir opkomende swart entrepreneurs om toegang tot kapitaal te kry om hulle besighede te ontwikkel. Voeg hierby die vinnige pas van groot agri besighede wat boerdery oorneem en mechanisasie instel, wat gevolglik werksverliese, 'n prentjie ontwikkeling van kommersiële boerderysbedrywighede met groot opbrengs op kapitaalinvestering, omring deur uitgestrekte gebiede van doelbewus en onderontwikkeling en desperate armoede. Terwyl ek die afgelope paar weke in die kiesafdeling werk doen in Tabazimbi, reis ek gereeld na Tabazimbi. By Bella Bella en Brits het ek deur gebiede gery met besonderse pragtige bewerkte kommersiële plase. Dit is duidelik dat hierdie plase suksesvol is met 'n hoë mate van outomatisering van besproeiingsstelsels en algehele mechanisasie. Dit is egter ook duidelik dat baie werksgeleenthede vir hierdie landelike gemeenskappe wat tradisioneel daarop staat gemaak het om plaaswerk te doen, verlore gegaan het as gevolg van verskriklike skrewe industrialisasiemodel wat grootskaalike stedelike gebiede bevoordeel en geen alternatiewe werksgeleenthede geskep het nie. Wanneer hierdie tragiese prentjie van werksverliese, ontneming en die gevolglike agteruitgang van ons mense se lewens waargeneem word, moet daar altyd onthou word dat grond wat op hierdie hoogs suksesvolle landboubesighede floreer, gesteel is van die regmatige eienaars wat grondloos is en wat werkloos is en generasies is verarm. In baie gevalle het die ryk wit boere en landboubesighede nie eers titelaktes vir die grond wat hulle boer nie. En tog met 'n massiewe gevoel van arrogansie aanspraak maak, beweer dat hulle is die regmatige eienaars. Ongelukkig het die ANC-regering nie eens die mees basiese interventions gedoen om vas te stel of hulle titelaktes is op die grond het nie. Nie dat ek sê titelaktes hulle eienaarskap van die grond regverdig nie, maar ek lig hierdie kwessie as 'n aanduiding van hoe arrogant en onverskillig die ANC-regering in werklikheid geword het. Ons hoor gereeld van plaaswoorde en verkeerdelik word dit dikwels voorgestel asof dit net wit boere is wat vermoor word. Dit is beslis nie waar nie. Stories in die verband word deur rasisme deurdrenk en deur wit rassistiese oppergesagsorganisasies soos AgriForum en Solidariteit aangehits. Die waarheid is dat die meerderheid mishandeling van moorde op plase gekenmerk word deur wit op swart geweld, waar wit boere swart plaaswerkers mishandel en vermoor. Ons het onlangs gehoor van die verskriklike daad van moedswillige ontneming en rasisme toe wit boere 3 desperate swart vroue vermoor en hulle liggame aan varke voer. Die verskriklike werklikheid is dat witboere in landelike gebiede steeds op die mees verskriklike, ontneemde en gewelddadige maniere teen swart Suid-Afrikaners optree. Daar is geen verbetering in rasseverhouding nie en word eintlik progressief erger en meer beledigend. Hierdie verskriklike situasie word vererger deur 'n onbemande en 'n finansiële Suid-Afrikaanse polisiediens wat toenemend nie in staat is om misdaad te ondersoek en suksesse vervolgings te versekering. Voeg hierby dat baie polisiestasies in landelike gebiede in terme van rassemagsdinamika nog totaal ongetransformeer is en wit polisiebeamptes het steeds disproporsionele mag en invloed. Baie swart mense in landelike gebiede het gruwelverhale oor hoe hulle klagtes nie opgevolg word nie en oor die totale gebrek aan sorg en beskerming wat hulle van die polisie ontvang. Voeg hierby 'n korrupte en 'n disfunksionele polisiediens en jy bevind jouself in die middel van 'n oog van 'n perfekte storm, van 'n uiterste skande. Dit is hoekom ek my toespraak begin het, deur te verwys na die titel van Coetzee, se mees bekroonde 3 ontstellende boek, Disgrace. Die Suid-Afrikaanse polisiediens moet voldoende hulpbronne het, beide in terme van baie meer goed opgeleide beamptes en toerusting. Verder is 'n harde feit dat die oorweldigende meerderheid van disfunksionele munisipaliteite in Suid-Afrika in landelike gebiede is. Die mees basiese dienslewering vind nie plaas nie in al hoe meer plattelandse dorpe verdrink in skuld en kan nie eens meer die basiese dienste soos water en elektrisiteit verskaf nie. Baie van hierdie dorpsrade is tot in die kern korrup. Munisipale bestuurders en personeel word nie aangestel op grond van professionele kwalifikasies en bevoegdheid nie, maar deur korrupte bevooroordeling. Die kombinasie van toenemende vlakke van werkloosheid, voorgesette wit rasisme, oorheersing en munisipaliteite wat tot op die been korrup is en wanfunksioneel is in die verskaffing van dienslewering is 'n giftige mengsel wat lei tot toenemende misdaad en geweld wat uit hopeloosheid en desperaatheid gebore is. Agbare voorsitter, terwyl dit baie belangrik is om eerlik met onsself te wees as Amalka Kalbra ons vermaan om nie leuns te vertel nie en maklike oorwinnings op te eis nie. Ons as openbare verteenwoordigers het ook 'n groot verantwoordelikheid om nie net die harde realiteit en mislukkings van die plattelandse lewe te vertel nie, maar nadat ons dit gedoen het, ook om vorendag te kom met 'n konstruktiewe plan van hoop om hoe uit hierdie pynlike en skadelike situasie te kom. Ons in die EFF het soos 'n konstruktiewe plan vir hoop en ons grondslag van daardie plan is, julle wil die waarheid hoor nie. Die grondslag van ons plans is te besef dat die fundamentele transformasie en ommeswaai van ons landelike gemeenskap die nasionalisering van grond is, sodat daar 'n progressiewe regering kan effektiewe benutting en al die grond bepaal op grond van nasionale ontwikkelingsplan wat erken word dat landelike gebiede doelbewus ingryping moet hê vir die daarstelling van spesiale ontwikkeling ekonomiese sones. Alhoewel wit bevoorregting en rasisme moet genadeloos dit uitgeroei word. Dit moet gepaard gaan met 'n sterk teen korrupsie veldtog teen ander landelike munisipaliteite en die aanstelling van gekwalifiseerde en bevoegde munisipale bestuurders en personeel. Ons erken dat niks hiervan maklik bereikbaar sal wees nie, wat die verrotting van korrupsie en wanadministrasie het die verskriklik ver gegaan, maar dit kan gedoen word as daar 'n radikale, werklike, revolusionêre en omvattende transformasieplan is. Die enigste party wat 'n omvattende en 'n goed geïntegreerde plan het, is die EFF. Dit is moontlik om met die kaders van hopeloosheid en skade in ons landelike gemeenskap tot 'n einde te bring en die EFF sal dit doen. Dit is met daardie kennis en toewyding dat die EFF hom onvermoeid met vasberadenheid beywer vir die komende munisipale verkiesing, tussenverkiesing in plattelande distrikdorpe soos Chairperson. Thank you, Jayla. Wil jy die waarheid toe nie gee die grond terug. Julle het generasies verarm. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. The House now recognises the Honourable Farmer from the Patriotic Alliance and also the Western Cape.
Thank you, Chairperson, honourable members. South Africa's rural economy faces many challenges, including 1, lack of access to services. Rural areas often lack access to essential services like clean water, electricity, and roads. This can make it difficult for businesses and farmers to be sustainable. Households at risk of poverty may spend more of their budget on essential services, making them more vulnerable to price increases. People living in rural or remote areas may have limited access to services, especially for transportation and digital communications. People may lack the skills to use essential services such as digital communication and financial services. Poor infrastructure can make it difficult to access services, such as when there is limited transport infrastructure and low-quality broadband connections. Services may not exist in a person's geographic area, or there may be an insufficient number of delivery channels. Providers may not accept patients' insurance, or they may not be able to communicate with patients due to language issues. People may have to wait too long to obtain appointments or see providers. People may not know where to access the resources they need. Many areas lack access to broadband internet, which can make it difficult to access telehealth services. 2, rural-urban migration. Many skilled workers leave rural areas for cities, which can prolong poverty and underdevelopment. Rural-urban migration in South Africa is a growing trend that has many implications for both rural and urban areas. A, causes. People move from rural to urban areas for a variety of reasons, including better employment opportunities, improved education, and better health services. B, impacts. Rural-urban migration can lead to unbalanced development, loss of skills, and the proliferation of informal settlements. It can also increase unemployment and crime and put pressure on the government to address these issues. C, trends. The rate of rural-urban migration in South Africa has been increasing rapidly. D, comparison with other countries. Rural-urban migration is not unique to South Africa, as many developed countries also experience large numbers of people moving to urban areas. E, place attachment. The concept of home is complex and carries many meanings, including emotional attachment, familiarity, and security. Migrants may feel pressured to be successful and may delay returning home to their families. Limited economic linkages. Rural areas may not be connected to urban areas through economic linkages such as export opportunities. South Africa's economic growth has been constrained by low integration in regional and global value chains due to low competition, ineffective industrial policies, regulations and laws, and social challenges. Then there is financial constraints. Rural municipalities may not have enough revenue to fund critical services and infrastructure. They may also be dependent on national treasury allocations, which may not be enough to meet their needs. South Africa faces several financial constraints, including fiscal constraints, debt, weak economic growth, exchange rate, limited access to financial services, high fees, mistrust of banks, concerns about fraud, paperwork, and slow response times. And then there's poor management skills. Rural entrepreneurs may have limited skill diversity and poor management skills. Poor management skills in South Africa can be seen in several ways, including small business owners often lack the managerial skills needed to run a successful business. Some studies have found that provincial department leaders in South Africa lack the transformational skills to manage their departments effectively, like the Western Cape. Employee misconduct. Managers may be unable to deal with errant employees. And then there's agricultural decline. Declining contribution to GDP, reduced volumes of and producer price declines, smallholder farm abandonment, decreased wheat production and water availability.
Thank you, Honourable Farmer. Your time has
These need
also
to be
expired.
overcome to turn around the migration to urban areas.
Thank you, Honourable Farmer. Honourable members, we now recognise the Honourable Madupe. Honourable Madupe.
Honorable Chair, thank you very much for this opportunity. Chair, greetings to all members and those who are on the platform as well. Honorable Chair, without much waste of time, maybe it is important that one should clarify what is the meaning of rural. To me, rural doesn't only confine to farmers or farms, but the areas located outside the cities, towns and towns as a result of uneven development. To me, those are rural areas. The skewed apartheid spatial planning that was biased towards a certain particular group. It is what we mean the rural when we speak of rural in the topic that we are going to debate. Honorable Chair, the National Development Plan Vision 2030, which focus on building safer communities, state that by 2030, South Africans will feel safe at home, at schools, at work. They will also live in community free from fear, where women can walk freely on the streets and children can play outside without fear. This vision also applies to the nation rural communities. All vulnerable groups, including women, children, and rural communities, should equally have protection, and their fear of crime should be eliminated through efficient, coordinated responses from the police, businesses, community, civil society. According to Chapter 12, Building Safer Communities, which is one of the NDP 2030 key points. According to Chapter 12, Building Safer, under heading Rural Safety, a special attention must be paid to rural and farming communities' safety as well as their access to justice. It is also acknowledged that rural and farming communities are more vulnerable to crime because they are remote and isolated from business, non-governmental organizations, and the federal and provincial governments. A large percentage of our population still lacks access to food, with approximately 2.6 million people having inadequate access to food and approximately 1.1 million having severely inadequate access. According to Stats SA 2023, women are disproportionately affected by poverty as they are primary caregivers and bear the brunt of food scarcity. There would also be a risk if government funding for small-scale farmers, focused infrastructure and support service were not increased. At the same time, care must be given to guarantee that mechanisms are in place to allow South Africans farmers to supply fresh, safe, ecological, socially responsible food to both local and international markets. Priority must be given to biosecurity risk and mitigation strategies. Both new and current farmers must ensure living tenure security is essential. It is important to look into the possibility of adaptable land use plans for various types of farming on shared land. Examining funding options and grant land reform recipients' private property rights in a way that doesn't negatively impact those who are heavily indebted. After 1994, the Constitution of South Africa enshrined country promises of democracy, freedom, security, and equality. Millions of South Africa still struggles to find food every day despite this promise. Being one of the major exporters of wine, citrus, and maize throughout Africa and other international markets, South Africa's agricultural sector makes a substantial contribution to the country's economy. The disparity between the national agriculture wealth and the ongoing hunger in the household, particularly in rural and farming areas, demonstrates the systemic violence that still affects people who live far from government and its resources. The main theme of Sustainable Development Goal, Zero Hunger, took center stage on the fifth International Social Justice Conference, the 6th Zero Hunger Summit, which was held here in Cape Town on the 17th and 18th of October at the Arts Center in Cape Town. The conference urged countries to treat food security as a fundamental component of social justice. This calls to action strike a deep chord in South Africa, although South Africa Constitution does not specifically guarantee food security as a right. Post-apartheid policies promised an era of equality and dignity. Millions are now at risk as a result of this omission, particularly in the rural and undeveloped areas. Policing in rural areas is particularly difficult to the severity and high rate of unemployment and poverty. Some rural communities find it challenging to attend community police forums, rural safety meetings with police because of the size of the rural areas. Honorable Chair, in many rural areas, effective policing is hampered by inadequate response to the need of rural communities and resources limitations. Agriculture, ecotourism, and cultural tourism present some of the greatest opportunity to significantly grow our economy and create jobs. It is against this backdrop that South Africa Police Services should therefore ensure that these activities are conducted in a safe and secure environment. The farming community is more susceptible to rural crime because of the size of rural farming areas and the distance from the service center and the law enforcement. In the event of emergency, like a farm attack, they must rely on one another for support. The country and government cannot allow crime to endanger the life of farming communities or their properties during the holiday season, including those communities that were deliberately put in the peripheries of where economy is. So the police operational plans for rural farming areas must incorporate the blitz operations that have planned, as well as their heightened efforts to combat crime. A concerning rise in stock theft has been reported in the first quarter of 2024-2025 crime statistics and the recent fourth quarter. This can impede agricultural productivity, vital sector of South African economy. The rise in stock theft has detrimental impact on new and small farming enterprise in a nation that is grappling with high unemployment rate and poverty. There are 6.2 instances of stock theft in fourth quarter, which is 5.5 increase over the same time last year. There were 6.3 instances of stock theft in April and June, which amount to 0.4 increase. No matter where we go, the safety environment is unattractive at the moment. South Africans don't feel safe anywhere in the country, from the suburb to the township to the farms, and the data that our police force provides only confirms our legitimate concerns. According to the most recent crime statistics, robberies, aggravating circumstances, murder, and attempted murder have increased annually. Agriculture is one of the best performing industries in South Africa and thrive in rural areas. Since few other industries have incentives to operate in the communities, this sector is particularly significant because our rural areas are often overlooked when it comes to infrastructure investment and service delivery. The majority of new investment are concentrated in urban areas. In spite of this, rural economy rely heavily on agriculture. More than that, though it serves as a basis for the country's most fundamental necessity, which is food. Farming communities care about their own safety, and since rural unemployment is high, there is enough labor to support the reservist system and raise police presence. According to Agri-SA, rural reservists should be placed in separate category. This will make it possible to hire more reservists, use potential civilian resources in the event that police resources are unavailable, and guarantee a quicker response when necessary. What needs to be done, Honorable Chairperson? Improved coordination is needed for communities, business farming, organizations. SAPs must collaborate more. Participation of communities, farming communities, including farm workers, all to be actively participating in the forums for community policing. The traditional leaders, encouragement of traditional leaders in participating also is to ensure safety is encouraged. It's also encouraged. Private security to guarantee that arrests are carried out in compliance with Constitution. Private security firm ought to also collaborate closely with SAPs. New technology can enhance rural safety through integrated communication. It is possible to encourage crime prevention through environmental design, comprehensive rural development plan. It is possible to carry out the comprehensive rural development plan. Food insecurity in the household headed by women, where poverty is high, emphasized the connection between hunger, gender, peace building, which has become increasingly pressing as commemorated in the 30th anniversary of our democracy. Economic reliance on abuser frequently keeps survivors and victims' insecurity as hard security issue. It is necessary to promote and highlight the communities where protein sources like meat and poultry are crucial. Both practicality and nutrition are also ignored by campaigns to promote the plant-based diets and reduce meat consumption, which are becoming more and more popular worldwide. With community-led initiatives that are backed by long-lasting policy framework, rather than relying on sporadic funding, the government must close this gap and guarantee that food security is top priority on our national agenda. In order to effectively address the disparity that intersect with hunger, such as gender and socioeconomic status, food security must be firmly established as a right. As we consider these 3 decades, we are reminded that justice, dignity, peace have not been ensured for everyone by freedom alone. Let's advocate for policies that address Honorable Chair.
Your time is up, Honourable Member.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Madupe. I'm sorry, I did note that you were coming to the end, but gave you a few extra seconds. It didn't seem to be enough. Honourable members, we now call upon the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs to present arguments in the debate. The Honourable K.M. Zondi. Honourable Zondi. I'm not hearing Honourable Zondi online. Perhaps we can give Honourable Zondi a minute or two to connect and come back to them in a few minutes. If I can then return to the House and ask the Honourable Adriansa to take the microphone. Honourable Adriansa. Honourable Zondi, sorry, you've missed your gap. If you can just give us a few minutes. We've put Honourable Adriansa ahead of you. She'll be speaking for 7 minutes, and we'll come back to you immediately thereafter. Please go ahead, Honourable Adriansa.
Honourable Chairperson, I don't see the Minister, Deputy Minister anymore, but honourable members, fellow South Africans, we face a critical threat: the decline of the rural economy. This is not just another statistic. Inadequate service delivery and unsafe conditions endanger our citizens daily. Navigating potholed roads is not merely an inconvenience, it's a perilous gamble. Countless forgotten individuals endure this reality as neglect erodes the foundation of our communities. It's time to wake up and act. Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you to shine a spotlight on a crisis that touches the very heart of our nation. The plight of our farmers and farm workers, the backbone of our food production. They are increasingly vulnerable, besieged by crime that strikes at the core of their livelihoods and impacts the small towns that depend on them. The alarming rise in farm attacks and theft has instilled a pervasive fear, stifling investment and innovation. Without a safe environment, our agricultural productivity cannot thrive. Consider the stark reality of Hartbeesfontein, where farmers have faced losses exceeding 7.5 million rand due to stock theft. This crime does more than deplete their life savings. It erodes the very trust that binds our communities together, and it stifles economic growth. In a province already grappling with a staggering expanded unemployment rate of 51.5%, these losses can lead to more job losses. We cannot stand by and let this continue and play politics. This decline in the rural economy is not merely an economic issue. It is a threat to the dignity and the survival of all our people. The safety of our farmers and farm workers is paramount. They face daily threats that force many to abandon their homes, exacerbating an already dire situation. Moreover, we are confronted with inadequate infrastructure, crumbling roads, unreliable electricity, sometimes for more than 2 weeks at a time. the electricity will be off, and a lack of clean water. These challenges not only hinder daily life, but also deter businesses from thriving. The failure to provide basic services is choking our rural enterprises, stifling jobs, and deepening the grip of poverty on our country. How can we expect rural communities to succeed without essential services? Poor roads delay transport to markets, leading to increased costs and loss and damage of precious produce. Cracked eggs don't sell. Consider the closure of the cheese factory in Lichtenburg. A devastating blow of 330 job losses due to infrastructure. And let's not forget the uncompleted schools, the decrepit clinics, and sanitation systems, crippling entire communities and their potential. These are not isolated incidents. They are glaring examples of systemic failures impacting countless South Africans. Access to basic services, electricity, water, education remains a distant dream for far too many. As young people flee to urban areas, we are left with a hollowed out rural landscape, devoid of promise and potential. Yet, amidst these challenges, there are glimmers of hope. Community cooperatives and safety networks are emerging, but we need targeted interventions to turn these little sparks into blazing fires of change. In conclusion, let us once again recognize the critical importance of our rural economy. It's not just an economic sector. It is the lifeblood of our nation. Together, we can turn our vision into reality, transforming the glimmer of hope into a powerful beacon of safety and prosperity. Let us empower our rural communities to thrive, creating jobs and fostering dignity for all. The future of our nation depends on the strength of our rural heart. Let us stand united in this mission, because when we uplift our rural areas, we uplift our entire nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Adriansa, especially for respecting the clock. Let's try the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs again. Honorable Zondi.
Honorable Chairperson, I hope I am audible and visible now.
You are indeed, sir. Please go ahead. 10 minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. It is a privilege for me to participate in this important debate, which focuses on the demise of the rural economy due to a lack of rural safety and poor service. We all know that the spatial planning of the apartheid era has bequeathed to us a legacy of poor service delivery in areas which in the past were designated as black areas. You also find these disparities even in our urban areas in the form of former white suburbs being better serviced than areas which are largely populated by black people. This legacy contributes to the very high economic inequalities which continue to persist even 30 years after the attainment of democracy. South Africa's Gini coefficient stands at around 0.67, which is the highest in the world. And this indicates that the country has the highest income inequality. Honorable Chairperson, I'm mindful of the fact that today's debate wants us to focus on the plight of the rural areas caused by the demise of the rural economy due to a lack of rural safety and poor service. As the MEC charged with the responsibility of growing economic activity in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, I am acutely aware that we have inherited an economy which is skewed in favor of the urban areas. Therefore, my most urgent and difficult task is to work towards creating a balance of economic development across the province of KwaZulu-Natal. This entails striving to spread the cake of economic activity towards the rural areas. Our cities and established towns are currently bursting at the seams as a result of the phenomenon of rural-urban migration, which is primarily caused by the demise of rural economy. The causative factors which are key drivers to this undesirable phenomenon of rural-urban migration are varied and many, but the most prominent indeed is the lack of rural safety and poor services that obtain in our rural areas. Honorable Chairperson, we must, during this debate, unequivocally accept and acknowledge that the most prominent activity that underpins the rural economy is, by and large, various forms of agricultural activities. Even though there are other forms of economic activity in the rural areas such as mining, tourism, and leisure, but agriculture remains the most important economic activity that obtains in our rural areas. From where I'm sitting, we accept that agriculture actually forms the backbone not only of our rural areas, but of even our economy as a whole. I say so, Honorable Chairperson, because agriculture guarantees food security for all of us. So if agriculture collapses, the rural economy will collapse as well. Honorable Chairperson, I come from a province which is still largely rural in character. When we speak of rural areas in KwaZulu-Natal, we are not only talking about farm areas, but about vast settlements of traditional areas under the custodianship of traditional leaders. I'm sure that honorable members know that KwaZulu-Natal is the only province in the country with vast tracts of land under the custodianship of Ingonyama Trust. I must, however, hasten to point out that not all the land under the Ingonyama Trust is actually rural, as some of our urban townships actually fall under the Ingonyama Trust. The main characteristics of these areas is the lack of safety and basic services. We have a program in my department that focuses on township and rural economies. I can say without any fear of contradiction that it is doubly difficult to establish viable economic programs and projects in the rural areas because of poor services and lack of safety. Just yesterday, Honorable Chairperson, I was visiting the 3 communities of Msinga, which is one of the largest rural municipal areas of KwaZulu-Natal. Msinga is also one of the least developed areas of KwaZulu-Natal, and the safety and security services are minimal. The lack of basic services makes it extremely difficult for any prospective investor to establish business in that area, and yet job opportunities are urgently needed in the area to make life meaningful. Honorable Chairperson, while we fully support the programs that the Department of Safety and Security has developed to address the issue of safety in the rural areas, and especially in the farming areas, I must respectfully urge all of us that we should now take the bold steps of moving away from mere strategies and plans, but to concrete actions that are designed to turn the situation around, of improving safety in the rural areas and services in the rural areas. We need, Honorable Chairperson, to strive to turn the situation around, not tomorrow, but today, as our people who dwell in the rural areas of our country cannot live on promises and hope forever. We must remember that they too are full citizens of this country, and therefore they deserve to have a fair share of the democratic dividends that were attained 30 years ago in 1994. With these few remarks, Honorable Chairperson, I thank you and honorable members for listening to me. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, MEC Zonde. It has indeed been gratifying to have an MEC from KwaZulu-Natal participating in this debate. Honourable members, we move on to the Eastern Cape, Rural Development and Agrarian Reform MEC, Honourable Consiwa. Honourable Consiwa.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to the honourable members of the House, the Minister and the Deputy Ministers present in the House. I am moving from and I want to say first, thank you for the opportunity. The Eastern Cape was affected by apartheid and therefore has long backlog on the following items. On the infrastructure, he has got high levels of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. So the high level of lack of the infrastructure includes roads, rail, water sanitation, healthcare, and schools. So the Eastern Cape is a province that has a huge backlog because of the system that was there at the same time. We'll remember that Eastern Cape is one province that had two nations or countries within it, three. With South Africa, it was Transkei, Ciskei, and then South Africa. So these backlogs are as a result of that system. So we are battling, I must say. Now this has been exacerbated by the extortion syndicates. Criminal networks target rural businesses, creating fear and discouraging economic activity. Further than that, there is also a stock theft system that has engulfed the province, which we have now named as stock robbery, because it's no longer a theft. Now people take the livestock of the communities by force. In addition to that is farm killings. The attacks of the farm killings of the farm is undermining the agriculture as a sector, which is generating more than 38 billion on an annual basis for the provincial economy. The agricultural sector, which supports jobs across all skills levels, must remain protected to secure its resilience and growth. On poor service delivery, we understand that the infrastructure deficit that is deteriorating road, irrigation, and electricity stifle market access and productivity. The insufficient basic services limit the access to healthcare, education, and clean water, widens the social inequalities in rural areas. Therefore, we propose that we feel strongly that if this can be addressed on the following: one, expand infrastructure development via programs like EPWP and agri-parks. Two, increase access to basic services such as nutrition, so as to secure food security, healthcare, and education. Promoting economic diversification in sectors like mining, tourism, and fishery. The Provincial Development Plan's vision, Eastern Cape aims to become an enterprising province where communities actively drive local economic development. A connected province through its road network with infrastructure linking all rural areas and urban areas. A people-centered province offering equal opportunities regardless of background. Therefore, in addition to this, we also see that the Integrated Rural Development Strategy 2023, the 2023 Integrated Rural Development Strategy offers practical solutions to revitalize rural economy One, infrastructure development. We need to prioritize investment in roads, irrigation, electricity, and ports to enhance productivity and market access. Also revitalize rural factories and agro-processing hubs to stimulate the industrialization in rural areas. Also enhance economic growth by developing agro-value chains and cooperatives to empower smallholder farmers. In addition to that, strengthen links between rural towns and urban centers to boost self-sufficiency. Education and skills development. We need to equip rural youth with training in climate-smart agriculture, tourism, and manufacturing. Also develop artisanal skills to meet local and national economic needs. On basic services, we need to improve access to water, sanitation, healthcare, electricity, and education. Maintain village roads to ensure connectivity and service delivery. On land reform and tenure security, ensure access to land for production and tenure security for rural households. Expand support for smaller holder farmers to enable market participation in job creation so that they too grow and become commercial farmers. On rural safety and community development, enhance law enforcement to combat stock theft, extortion, and farm killings. Strengthen partnership, communities, police, and government to ensure safety to all communities. Furthermore, we welcome the President's recent pronouncement on the need to regulate informal shops or spaza shops, particularly in rural areas. These mechanisms not only protect consumers, but also ensure that traders meet ethical and safety standards. These steps is critical in addressing some of the underlying issues that threaten rural stability and safety. In conclusion, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, rural safety and service delivery are central to reversing the decline of our rural economies. By implementing these strategies outlined above in our integrated rural development framework, we can ensure that rural areas become hubs of economic growth, innovation, and opportunity. The Eastern Cape stands ready to lead this transformation, but we need all spheres of government to work together. Let us then commit to making rural safety and development the cornerstone of our shared progress. Enkosi kakhulu, ndiyabulela, Honorable Chair and members.
Thank you very much, Honorable Konsiwe. Returning members from the 6th Parliament may agree we maybe need Shirley back to help us with centering our pictures for the debates. Honourable members, it is now the opportunity of the Honourable Van den Berg to continue with the debate in the House. Honourable Van den Berg.
Honourable Chairperson, understanding the reasons behind the decline of the rural economy is essential. We hope to revitalize our rural communities. First and foremost is the issue of inadequate infrastructure. Veral in terme van veiligheidsdienste en adjunkminister, meestal is die SAPS slegs eerste op die toneel as hulle self by die voorval betrokke is. Many rural areas suffer from poor transport networks, limited access to markets, massive personal safety risks, unreliable electricity and water supply, as gevolg van 30 jaar se verwaarlosing en wanbestuur. Another critical issue is the lack of access to education of value. Education should equip individuals with the knowledge and skills necessary to innovate and improve agricultural practices and engage with agricultural technologies. In modern farming, it's all about keeping the costs down while being efficient and thus maximizing profit with the least effort. Education also has an influence in setting the mindset, culture, and narrative of the community. It should be noted that community cohesion is of utmost importance and should be taught to all children. Vibrant social interaction within the community, whether it be in sports or other activities, helps to lift the morale, bonds people together, and make your area feel like home. Young people are increasingly leaving rural areas, seeking perceived but not necessarily better opportunities in cities, mostly due to youth growing up in difficult and also unsafe environments. And this happens across the full democratic spectrum. This trend not only depletes the workforce needed for agricultural production, but also disrupts the social fabric of these communities. To address this, it is crucial to create viable opportunities in safe rural areas that appeal to the youth. Accordingly, I must highlight the persistent issue of land tenure insecurity. Many rural farmers do not have formal title to the land they cultivate, which prevents them from accessing credit and investing in their farms effectively. Strengthening local governments and community participation is vital. Empowering rural residents to have a say in the decisions that affect their lives can lead to more effective solutions tailored to their specific needs. This is called self-determination. In Afrikaans noem ons dit selfbeskikking. En hoe minder effektief die staat is, hoe meer moet burgers planne maak om te handhaaf en te bou. Suid-Afrika is kompleks en as ons hierdie bogenoemde probleme wil aanspreek en die seëninge waarna ons almal so smag wil ervaar, moet ons leer om saam te boer en te bou. Ons moet leer om na mekaar te luister, maar ophou om mekaar te blameer. Ons kan nie vir ewig in die verlede leef nie. Na 30 jaar begin dit nou soos verskonings klink. Ons stem almal saam oor dieselfde probleme, maar gun mekaar niks. By addressing challenges through strategic investments for all, community empowerment for all, and innovative development programs for all, we can breathe new life into our rural economies and create opportunities for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable van der Berg. Honourable members, is now the opportunity for Mr. Peter. Honourable Peter, if you can come and take your place at the podium.
Thank you, Chair. Mandibuli Second Minister Bakoyo. Our rural economy is under severe strain with safety concerns, poor service delivery, and deteriorating infrastructure. These issues not only hinder economic growth, but also threaten the livelihood of people who depend on agriculture and small-scale industries. The plight of rural communities, particularly in black townships and villages, is worrying. According to the Daily Dispatch, the villagers of Willowvale live in fears as violent killings plague their communities. They have had to plead for peace after losing family members and neighbors to senseless acts of violence. Such strategies highlight the glaring inadequacy of rural policing and the absence of a decisive government prevention and responses. Pakukumbu, kwilali kuthiwa yithwa izikolo azina minyango. Izikolo Pakukumbu azinazo ifestile. Indlela azikho, ibrogo azikho, kodwa sililisela nge-service delivery esithi siyayenza. Kukurhulumente pha wephondo, kukurhulumente pha womasipala, kodwa kunzima ukuya ezikolweni. Edwesi police station, uminister belapha ndinewari bakakho apha, uthetha yonke into all is well. Idwesi police station ivalile ngoku abantu bakwazi uyofaka ii-cases phaa eDwesi. Ufeni can test about that, but nikleyima nikhumsha kwezi TV as if nenza something on the ground. Eli lizwe liphethwe yi-ANC. The failures of this country is your failure. Siyaphela ngoku abantu bayabulawa. Nilibele kuzodefenda abantu abama apha nizobabetha. Umzekelo, Ezilalini kubiwa inkomo daily. Stock theft is high. But there's a ministers there. Bahleli. Bazoqhoba izandla apha. Abantu bayabulawa. Uthatha inkomo zabo. Nikhona niyalawula. Umzekelo. Sinomasipala abayi 257. 257 municipality is 66 is dysfunctional. But niyancoma nithi all is well. 163 but distressed. 163 municipalities are distressed. Asana zokucenga ubuso benu apha thina.
Chairperson.
Number 4. 90% abakho masipala 31 qha abasebenzayo abanqonywayo.
Honorable Peter, if I can ask you to take your seat for a point of order, please. Honorable Modise.
It's not a point of order, Chair. I was wondering if the member will take a question.
Honorable Peter, will you take a question from Honorable Modise?
After my last paragraph, I can take a
After your
question.
last point. Thank you, sir. If you can take your seat, Mr. Modise. Please continue, Honorable Peter.
Umzekelo ngoku urhulumente okhoyo we-ANC led by the ANC uthetha nge-apartheid eyabhubha kudala, uthetha ngesidumbu yabulawa i-apartheid ayisekho. But xa uthetha nge-service delivery ubalekelo kwi-apartheid. Urhulumente we-apartheid wakunika the agri-SA, the farmers that are producing food for you now. Undliwe ngurhulumente we-apartheid lo uthi nguye lubangela liyonke le mess. Apha amafama akho ongazi nawo wakhulisa. Uafasa ukhona, uNAFO ukhona. Those are the unions of your black farmers, but you don't care about them. But umengo uthetha nge-apartheid. Apartheid for what? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Peter. Honorable Modise. Thank you. I take it you won't be taking that opportunity, Honorable Modise. Yes. You missed the opportunity. Yes. Yes, indeed. Understood. Honorable members, let's move forward with the debate. And we now have the Honorable Lenkopane, who's the Northwest MEC for Economic Development, Environment, Conservation, and Tourism. Honorable Lenkopane.
Malibongwe.
Honorable member, we're seeing an icon. We're not hearing you. Honorable Lenkopane. No, we'll try and come back to that one then. Let's go then to Councillor Ngubane from the South African Local Government Association. Councillor Ngubane. Your second call, Councillor Ngubane. Right, it appears we've saved 20 minutes. We'll move to Honorable Makai or Maki from Mpumalanga, the MEC for Community Safety, Security and Liaison. Thank you, MEC. If you can just correct me on this pronunciation of your name, please.
Thank you, House Chair. Yes, my pronunciation is Masie. It's Honorable Cheki Masie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. If you can proceed with your inputs into the debate.
Thank you, House Chair. Greetings to your good self, Deputy Minister, members of the House, MEC present here. Honorable Chair and honorable members, receive our warm revolutionary greetings this afternoon as we engage and deliberate on this fundamental subject that talks to our constitutional mandate as South African government. Honorable members, my input today will contribute in the body of knowledge already circulating amongst us here, exploring the topic for today, namely demise of the rural economy due to lack of rural safe and poor service delivery, close quote. concur with the study commissioned by the President in 2008. Then I open quote, small business are important drivers of economic growth, job creation, and Black economic empowerment. The negative impact of crime on business as a major issue in South Africa. Various surveys have found that South African enterprise and all size rate crime as one of the top 4 constraints to doing business. However, SAP's data cannot break down crime by the size of the business affected. While there is broad agreement that the high level of crime, violent crime in particular, significantly constrained business, very little has been known about. How likely small and emerging business are to be victim of crime, the types of crime they experience mostly frequently, the way in which crime constrains small business and growth development. And above all, how many crime actually cost small business, both in money and in resources, close quote. As we reflect to explore challenges that contributed to the demise of rural economy due to lack of rural safety and poor service delivery, let us evaluate if we all agree about the conceptual meaning of the term rurally. What constitutes rurality? The concept of rurality has no universal definition and various across geographical and temporal dimension. What is deemed rural in the global north may vastly differ from rural conception in the global south, indicating a profound disparities in socio-economic cultural context. As a subject of history, which we all know, the property evaluate rural areas in South Africa, we need to understand the condition which we deliberately imposed on us by the apartheid regime. Theoretically revolutionary perspective of the African National Congress, the ANC, the National Democratic Revolution may easily refer to simply understand the concept of rural when it defines South Africa in terms of class race. In South Africa, rural is understood in terms of apartheid categories such as the Bantustan, and in the rest of the country, areas containing small town and economic farm as well as mine, which have recently turned out to be a haven of criminal known as Zamazamas. Another prominent features define the race and outlook of rural in South Africa are the stubborn triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality, which continue to average and keep our people in the deprivation trap. The crime has a severe impact on the equality of life of all South Africans, particularly the poor and the rural populace. High level of crime also towards effort to stimulate growth, increase investment, and reduce poverty. Most cities benefit from resources found in rural communities. Rural communities provide cities with raw material, labor, natural resources like mine, tourism attraction, forest, even rivers that simple supply cities past rural areas. The rural safety strategy pending its second review next year, 2025, will provide the 7th administration with an opportunity to adequately respond to new trends of crime affecting rural economy, such as construction mafia and illegal mining that destroy historical townships that attract tourists. The rural safety strategy, as reviewed in 2018 and 2019, is considering the recommendation made in the National Development Plan 2030, which is to improve accessibility to policing and service delivery to rural community in order to create a safety and secure rural environment and a better life for all. As MEC for Community Safety, Security and Liaison in Mpumalanga, we will convene a mini-MAC meeting on Thursday 21, which is tomorrow, to discuss, among others, the safety-related issues affecting local people, especially in rural part of our province. The Department of Community Safety Security has embarked in a process of strengthening the Provincial Secretariat. The aim of strengthening the Provincial Civilian Secretariat is to utilize it as an instrument to actively strengthen the oversight work over the South African police, but mostly importantly to assist municipality to develop and implement their community safety strategy, established community safety forum in the province. Thank you very much for the opportunity with those few remarks on House Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honourable MEC. Honourable members, it looks from the screen as if the Honourable NCOP is back online. If I can revisit that opportunity to invite Honourable NCOP to participate in the debate. Honourable member.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Deputy Chairperson of NCOP, Deputy Minister of Police, MEC is present, Chief Whip of NCOP, Honourable members. May I greet you all. We gather here today with a pressing purpose to find solutions to the dilemmas of our rural economy. Stats SA reported that more than half of South African population now resides in 17 municipalities that could be classified as urban, leaving a significant portion in rural areas. The state of the economy in most of our rural areas is concerning and continues to deteriorate. It is therefore essential for us as a nation to examine the causes behind the decline of rural economies and urgently effective. Honourable Chairperson, rapid population growth in urban areas is also placing significant strain on infrastructure and services. Honourable Chairperson, the rural economy in South Africa has historically been characterized by structural challenges such as limited access to markets and poor infrastructure, inadequate government support, lack of investment in infrastructure, and limited access to credit have hindered the growth of rural agriculture. Inconsistent policies and regulation also create uncertainty for small-scale farmers. All these factors have made it difficult for rural businesses to thrive and compete effectively. Inadequate access to resources like water and fertilizer have impacted agricultural productivity in rural areas. This has resulted in lower yields and income for farmers, contributing to the decline of rural economy. The historical legacy of apartheid has led to unequal land ownership, with a few large commercial farms dominating the rural landscape. Land reform efforts have been frustratingly slow and inefficient, leading to land disputes and lack of access to land for emerging farmers. It has been a contentious and complex issue with ongoing debates over land ownership and redistribution. Uncertainty around land rights and tenure can deter investment in rural areas and hinder also economic development. Honourable Chairperson, it is impossible to discuss the rural economy without acknowledging the urgent issue of safety. Rural communities are increasingly at risk from crime, including farm attacks, livestock theft, and other criminality activities. It is always disheartening to hear about the impact of inadequate safety and security on the rural economy of our country. The endless reports of killings of both commercial and small-scale farmers and their workers are a serious plague that requires urgent attention. Without a safe environment, businesses and individuals struggle to thrive and make a decent living. Rural-based businesses, which are essential for job creation and economic resilience, are vulnerable when safety cannot be guaranteed. Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, South Africa is facing the harsh realities of climate change, with rural areas bearing the brunt of its impact. Prolonged droughts and increasingly unpredictable weather patterns have disrupted traditional farming cycles, severely affecting agricultural productivity. For many rural communities, farming is not only a primary source of income, but also a way of life. Passed down through generations, the environmental challenges precipitated by climate change are causing a ripple effect throughout rural economies. Small-scale farmers, honorable Chairperson, who often lack the resources to adapt to these changes, are particularly vulnerable, facing the risk of complete economic collapse as crops fail and livestock struggle to survive. Food security becomes more precarious, leading to higher food prices that affect both rural and urban communities. This makes it even harder for families to make ends meet and pushes many into deeper poverty. Poverty, high unemployment, and inadequate access to quality education and health care are major factors driving the decline of the rural economy. With limited job opportunities or job prospects, many young people are compelled to migrate to urban centers in search of better opportunities, leaving a skills drain in rural areas. This challenge is further intensified by an influx of low-cost imported food, particularly in the agri-food sector, which places immense pressure on local producers, making it difficult for them to compete. Without sufficient trade protection, Honorable Chairperson, to support local industries, rural producers face an uphill battle in a market increasingly dominated by cheaper imports. These systemic challenges have a cascading effect on rural municipalities, which already face limited revenue bases and higher unemployment. Added to this, they must also bear the added burden of accommodating retrenched workers who return to their rural communities after losing jobs in urban centers. It is crucial that the local government funding model review addresses these realities, acknowledging the unique pressures rural municipalities face. Honorable Chairperson, we have proposed strategies to address these challenges. Reviving the economy of rural areas in South Africa can be a complex and a challenging task, but there are several strategies that can be considered to help stimulate economic growth and development in these regions. Improving infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and telecommunications can help connect rural areas to markets, attract investment, and create new economic opportunities. Many rural areas in South Africa rely on agriculture as a primary source of income. Providing support to farmers through training, access to markets, and technology can help boost agricultural productivity and income. encouraging entrepreneurship and supporting small businesses in various sectors within rural areas can also help create jobs, stimulate economic activity, and diversify the local economy. Honorable Chairperson, the other points are as it is important for security agencies to partner with communities to address issues of safety. Local communities have a lot of local intelligence that can be useful in arresting and successfully prosecuting criminals, as well as in protection of law-abiding citizens. South Africa's rural areas often have unique cultural and natural attractions that can be developed for tourism. Promoting tourism, that regions can create new job opportunities and generate revenue. Improving access to finance for small businesses and entrepreneurs in rural areas can help them invest in their businesses, and this will expand operations and create more job opportunities. Provision of training, skills developments, programs tailored to the needs of rural communities can help residents access better job opportunities and participate in the local economy more effectively. Honorable Chairperson, also encouraging the formation of cooperative enterprises can help rural communities pool their resources, access markets, and create sustainable businesses.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, thank you very much. Your time.
In conclusion, collaboration with local government, private sector, and NGOs can also help mobilize resources and expertise, support economic growth in rural South Africa. Honorable Chairperson, rural South Africa.
Thank you, Councillor Ngubane. Your time is unfortunately up.
Our attention, and SALGA is there.
Councillor, I'm calling you to order. Your time is up.
I thank you, honorable members. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ngubane. For those who didn't get it from the context, that was Councillor Ngubane from SALGA. So we're now going to have one more try to Honourable Lenkopane, the Northwest MEC for Economic Development, Environment, Conservation and Tourism. Honourable Lenkopane.
Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, fellow members of the NCOP, MECs and ministers present, fellow South Africans, let me greet you this afternoon, and my apologies. I'm just residing in a very deep rural area, a village that we are going to debate here today. Our chairperson, South Africa remains a dual economy with one of the highest and most persistent inequality rates in the world, with the Gini coefficient of 0.67. But the question is, why is there persistence of rural poverty in South Africa when considerable strides to improve it have been made? While our history is not unique, Chairperson, the patterns of colonial development, the institutionalized racism, and the brutal exploitation that characterizes it are common throughout the developing world. The high inequality is perpetuated by the legacy of exclusion and the nature of the economic growth, which is not pro-poor and does not generate sufficient jobs. Honorable Chair, any answer to this question needs to begin with the unusual nature of South Africa's growth pattern, which has emerged. This is where municipalities fail to provide basic services to rural communities, and the services which includes electricity, roads, and technological infrastructure. Honorable Chairperson, the Auditor General of South Africa since 2019 has indicated that our municipalities are in deep trouble. Households and residents have felt the impact. But lately, there is growing evidence that governance and service delivery failures are directly affecting the functioning of efficiencies of rural economy. A case in point is here in the Northwest, where we had to part ways with the recent decision by the Food and Beverage Group Clover to move its cheese production from Lichtenburg to an existing plant outside Durban in KwaZulu-Natal. This is due to other factors that includes the services in the area. Worth noting is that rural economic development policy have not yet taken spatial inequality into consideration. When it comes to the rural economic development policy makers, it should address the individual needs of communities based on geographic patterns. For example, the regional development strategies should consider the spillover benefits from the economic hub and development corridors to surrounding areas and target policies in these areas to reduce economic inequalities. Honorable Chair, the following are some factors that contribute to failure of rural economic development. The criminal activities. The progress towards establishing a viable rural development has been significantly hindered by criminal activities. There's a growing concern in rural community of theft targeting farm produce, including crops and animals, as well as the theft of infrastructure like fences. Limited access to reliable market. The sustainable rural economy relies heavily on the selling of local produced food goods, which necessitate access to reliable markets. The limitations in terms of reliable markets are also a major barrier pertaining to the establishment of viable rural economy. The rural producers face significant competition from the urban entrepreneurs who benefits from well-established markets, better infrastructure, and a capital-oriented economy. The other factor, Chairperson, is the skills deficit. Amongst factors of hampering the formation of viable rural economy is members of enterprises who lack knowledge and the core business of their enterprise. For instance, some individuals join group for financial gains, but they lack the technical know-how to execute their assigned duties effectively. And this stems from limited training and capacitation on how properly the startup and to manage the enterprise. And skills deficit remain a challenge in most of the SMMEs, and it is necessary to upscale all forms of entrepreneurs. The climate change and the natural disaster. The climate variation in recent years have also impacted some of the projects owned by our communities, that is agricultural entities, for instance, have recently been exposed to unpredictable floods, resulting in the loss of crops and animals such as poultry in low-lying areas. And some communities are also experiencing droughts and veld fires. This is due to the fact that the current rural development initiatives do not match the pace of resource depletion attributed to the climate change. The malfunctioning leadership. Besides the main barriers mentioned here, Chairperson, majority of research studies have also indicated that communities blamed the failure to establish viable rural development actions on malfunctioning leadership. They claimed that some political leaders might be contesting the space and disrupt the clear policies that are to implement for economic transformation. They further indicate that many of these leaders might now be detached from communities as a result. The interpersonal conflicts as a barrier to success of the rural economy, and these actions inherently rely on teamwork and unity. Lack of common understanding, compromise, or complex conflict resolution mechanisms often lead to group disintegration and the eventual collapse of the rural economic initiatives. Honorable Chair, it is against the above background that we believe that the provision of education and skills development tailored to the needs of different communities could increase the ability of people living in rural areas and villages to pursue the entrepreneurial economy and economic endeavors successfully. In conclusion, Chairperson, we hold a firm view that the improvement of transportation network, connectivity between the rural and the urban areas, villages in particular, would better facilitate the movement of goods. This includes developing better roads, transportation systems, and digital infrastructure in high potential areas to attract businesses. Once more, I must put my apologies, Chairperson, for the blurred pictures. It is because of network on my side, and I promise to improve, provided the infrastructure development in the villages, including my village, gets attention in terms of the policy, including the budget as we debate it next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable MEC Linkopane, for articulating the policy positions of your department. Now we go straight to the next member, Honorable Van Menen from the Western Cape. I don't know whether she's online. Over to you, Honorable Van Menen.
Honorable Chair,
All right.
Today we discuss the collapse of rural economies and the wider effect on the rest of society. Rural economies form the backbone of our society, our communities, and our country. They provide food on our plates, jobs for workers, both in agriculture and in support services, and a lifeline for our small town economies. Our wines are some of the best in the world, and our citrus exports are sought after internationally. Agriculture in the Western Cape and South Africa at large has always shone a light of excellence on our national spirit. South Africans know how to farm, and we know what is needed to support and grow this important sector. We all should have seen the images yesterday from London, and it's only a matter of time before we see similar scenes in Pretoria if the government fails to listen. Rural economies face many challenges. Years of an uncaring government who cannot see beyond the edge of the cities, to urbanization creating a class of consumers who have no idea on how food is produced, to farm subsidies in developed countries pricing imports from developing economies such as ours out of the market. Rural crime threatens the safety and lives of people, poses a huge risk to stock and the retention of farm infrastructure, and is also a factor driving people out of rural areas and into larger urban centers. Inadequate policing structures and the straining criminal justice system does nothing to assist in meeting the challenges brought about by crime and criminals. Another huge challenge is the destruction of infrastructure, of rail and road, the mismanagement of harbors, and its collective effect on supply chain and transportation. This has a cascading effect on the growth of unemployment, the deterioration of economic opportunities in rural areas, and serves as a further trigger for people to relocate to urban centers, far away from their homes and family. In addition to this, rural economies globally have another common enemy, an insidious apparition made of our own design. It lurks in the corner of the metaphysical room as a creature which we have all known about for decades but have yet ignored. That creature is climate change, and as correctly predicted, for generations we are now feeling its wrath. In the Western Cape, we've been hit by devastating floods. They are without doubt a symptom of climate change, and as the planet warms, floods, tornadoes, droughts, and freak weather events will become more extreme and frequent, threatening our hard-pressed rural economies even more. Increasingly, our rural areas are vulnerable to climate change, affecting agricultural yields, communities, and transport systems. Smaller scale emerging farmers are especially at risk from these developments and are disproportionately affected due to the limited access to resources, infrastructure, and markets. National government is sitting on its hands. Its addiction to coal and old forms of power generation are doing nothing to assist in ameliorating these threats. Despite these challenges, there are fortunately pockets of excellence. The Western Cape remains the largest exporter of agricultural products, ranging from food to ostrich feathers, flowers to wine. The Western Cape currently holds 3 positions in the top 100 wine farms globally, with Creation Wines taking the number 3 spot. This is good news and proof that we can create excellence. However, the success of our agricultural sector is also dependent on the value-add sectors upstream. One such industry that is under strain is that of the liquor industry, who's been given only 30 days to respond to proposals regarding excise duties. These proposals seek to reshape the excise framework of liquor and requires thoughtful input to make sure the restructuring is effective. 30 days is simply not enough and only seeks to rush the process. If valuable input fails to be proposed due to time constraints, this restructuring may not address the challenges facing the liquor industry. This sadly will have downstream effects on our wine and cereal farms, defeating efforts to retain employment and food security. Another key issue is that of farming grants. Currently, Comprehensive Agriculture Support Program, CASP, grants are listed as being Schedule 5, which has proven to be a frustrating development. During an oversight to Elsenburg, farmers' issues with obtaining CASP grants were discussed. As it stands, grant applications require approval from national government, which places a massive red tape requirement for farmers to navigate. I'm pleased to inform you that the DA in the Western Cape has heard the plight of its farmers and is advocating for CASP to be returned to Schedule 4. But grant funding is not enough to protect our rural communities. We must continue to advocate for the development of these communities. Farmers and agricultural sectors need secure infrastructures in order to operate and to deliver produce to market. When roads are washed away, when rail deteriorates, farmers cannot get their produce to market. When schools are left inoperable, the community looks elsewhere. And when the storage network of silos and granaries are allowed to decay, food is wasted. Fortunately, as of the recent QLLFS, it is clear that the DA in the Western Cape is on the right path. Through our Growth for Jobs strategy, we've managed to create agricultural jobs over the last quarter, with 13,000 more people finding employment in this field. When not experienced flooding, the Western Cape has faced severe droughts in recent years, underscoring the need for sustainable water management, including water-saving technologies, more efficient use of rainwater, and groundwater management. Because of this, unlike other provinces, the Western Cape is not currently facing a water shortage. Our dams are full and our infrastructure is under review. While we must always be mindful of drought, we're not experiencing water shedding due to our good governance. In addition, crop diversification and technological innovations are making it possible to mitigate against these threats, and conservation agriculture assists in biodiversity. The adoption of renewable energy assists with building resilience against national government failures, as we saw last year with the massive power outages, and generally building the ability of the Western Cape province to operate despite the barriers created by the inaction of the national government to maintain and expand the national grid and transport routes. However, going forward, we need to ensure that we see more and more emphasis placed on serving the rural areas, the small town economies geared towards farmers and associated employees, as well as policy shifts that encourage and grow the sector of our economy. Fortunately, with Minister Steenhuisen at the helm, we now have the right captain to guide the ship through the stormy waters to a calm and prosperous future, with better opportunities, support, and enthusiasm for the sector. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Van Minen, for your articulation of the policy positions from your side. The next speaker on the podium is Honorable Nonkonyana Inkosi. No, it's not you. It's Honorable Pinar. Hey, it's Honorable Pinar, I'm sorry. It's Honorable Pinar. No, this paper is upside down. Yeah. Can you reset the clock, please?
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Minister. That's a shame. Honourable members and my fellow South African, as always, good day, goeiedag, sowela. Honourable Breed, I want to thank you first of all for inviting this debate. Ek dink is belangrik, is 'n belangrike onderwerp wat lankal moes gedebatteer geword het. Sê jammer in jou toespraak jy verwys na van die polisie wat manne wat bang is vir die skelms. Lyk my van die polisiemanne is bang vir 'n debat. Dis kom hulle self maar moes verlaat uit hierdie agbare huis uit vandag. We have heard today of rural communities collapsing across the country. A lot of this is due to migration of job seekers from rural towns and villages to more prosperous metros like Cape Town, where they know that the DA government creates more job opportunities, as was clearly shown in the most recent employment figures, wherein the Western Cape's unemployment figures went below 20%, the only province able to achieve that. My honourable members of the NCOP, if you're wondering how this is done, you simply have to ask the Democratic Alliance. We have an open door policy to all struggling political parties. If they are, however, too proud to ask, the voters will make the choice for them come 2026. With that being said, and the struggling political parties, Chairperson, I must address the comments made in the House today by Honourable Aries. En ek gaan dit gedeeltelik in Afrikaans doen om seker te maak daar's geen misverstand hier nie. Ek vind dit ontsettend frustrerend dat sy kom vandag en sy maak vreeslike aantuigings en kritieke teen nie die regering nie, maar teen munisipaliteite en partye. Maar as julle geluister het na haar toespraak vandag, luister mooi. Sy het nie gekom met een voorstel. Nie een nie. En agbare Aries, gaan vanaand bietjie en gaan lees daai toespraak van jou weer in rustigheid. En lees hom deur en kyk, daar is nie een oplossing in haar hele toespraak nie. Sy praat van mekanisasie en die probleem wat mekanisasie is, wat 'n kritiese probleem is in die land. Mekanisasie is werklik besig om werk te vat van die werkers van die plase af. Gee sy een moontlike oplossing, hoe kan ons hierdie ding teenvoeter? Nee, sy doen nie, sy kerm en kla. As Honourable Farmer said, sal jy nou ophou kerm? I must say, Honourable Chairperson, the MK quite surprised me today. They made a few very reasonable comments about how can we assist the rural economies. I was quite impressed. Unfortunately, I then realized again, they want to nationalize all property in the country and they want to nationalize every bank in the country. So anything coming out of the MK's mouth can be taken with a pinch of salt. With that being said, you know, I must give one compliment to the Minister of the Deputy Minister of Police. You know, he said something today that some government officials struggle to say a lot of the times. He actually used the word farm murders. So I want to compliment him for that. It is a crisis in the country, and it's not only farm owners, it's the farm workers as well. And we as a party want to do everything we can to protect these individuals. We have also heard of lawless communities across South Africa where criminals are taking advantage of undermanned and underfunded police stations. These communities then in turn are forced to sell up and go, exacerbating the already high unemployment in most of these communities. Luckily, we have community members that form community safety structures, like CPFs and farm patrols. They are sometimes the only safety structures that stand between the criminals and the rural communities. We must, however, empower these structures, as they are picking up the mantle of safety and security we dropped. Then, and probably the most concerning reason for the death of rural economies and poor service delivery, honourable members, Chairperson, we have a cancer in this country. The cancer is causing our roads to fall apart, the water to stop flowing, and the taps to stop working, and the sewage to run down the streets. Our rural communities are completely collapsing because of non-existent service delivery. The word of maintenance on infrastructure is a foreign word
for the majority of these municipalities. If you are wondering who are running the majority of these municipalities, just ask yourself who was the biggest loser in the previous election. Now, in closing, Chairperson, I must say I find it also very concerning that of the 8 EFF members of parliament in the NCOP, only 1 is in the House today. I hope your voters see, and this is exactly, Chairperson, why they are crumbling like a piece of lint. They are not here to defend their statements. They come in, make a speech and leave. I hope the people of this country see it and they should be ashamed of themselves. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Pinar, for your articulation. The next delegate to come to the podium is Inkosi Unonkonyana. Over to you, sir.
Inganga nensibazayo inkosi zonke masithambe Hlobi isicaka sizolile. For the first and foremost, I feel highly honored and for being given this opportunity on behalf of the only authentic and legitimate political movement of the people of South Africa, the African National Congress, that delivered the liberation to all the people of South Africa that lived under the yoke of oppression from the 16th century and continue to endure the vestiges of the past, but continue to pin their hopes on the people's movement, the African National Congress. Today, Chair and honorable members, is the World Children's Day. I hope I'll have time to quote to you from what I've just received a few minutes ago from a young lady from Northwest Province, who is taking advantage of the progressive policies of the African National Congress and is conducting pickery and is thriving. The debate, sadly, Chair, presupposes that notwithstanding 30 years of the administration, which was led by the African National Congress government, there is a demise of rural economy due to, amongst other things, not stated, but include rural safety in South Africa and the so-called poor service delivery. You just state from the outset, Chair, the ANC rejects this presupposition with contempt it deserves. The people of South Africa, under the yoke of colonial and apartheid regime for many years, had endured a lot. It is saddening from a party that was part of the apartheid regime to raise this issue and also to utter words that to us are actually reminding us of the racist past that has caused rural masses to endure the suffering. Sadly, some of them still continue to endure this very day, albeit there are policies and strides that have been put in place by the progressive government of the ANC to address their plight. I must hasten to add, Chair, that these suppositions are based on white supremacy and racist rhetoric of right-wing policies and mentality that Africans are unable to govern this country. Kudlalwa ngemikhunya kulanjwa. Let me then deal with the issues that have been raised. We must make it crystal clear that the struggle that was waged by the African National Congress was a struggle for peace. Any suggestion, therefore, that under the governance led by the ANC, there could be violence that is sponsored or neglected is far from the truth. This is demonstrated by the fact that we had Nkosi Albert Lutuli, Bishop Desmond Tutu, Nkosi Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela, all receiving the Peace Awards, Nobel Peace Award. And of course, we had to actually extricate at least one of the people in South Africa, President de Klerk, from that pigsty of apartheid and to cleanse him with a view, therefore, that we can all live together, black and white, in line with the policy of non-racialism articulated by the only movement, African National Congress. Alikar Cabral once said, "Hide nothing from the masses of our people, tell no lies, expose lies whenever they are told, mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures, and claim no easy victory." Having, of course, said, particularly starting from the Deputy Minister and all the members of the African National Congress without exception, including the MECs from the ANC and also the MEC from KwaZulu-Natal, from the IFP, all understood the issues that we need to deal with them. And I'm indebted to all of them. Indeed, heavy is the head that wears the crown, the ANC. The ANC is in government, has been in government, and even today, the ANC is in government. And we decided just to extend the invitation to you. And if Lembego ne Kamela, you may leave. Because with or without you, we will be able. No, we can. Prove it. We can do it. We are called here, Chair and honorable members, by a party smacking right-wing politics and the successor of the apartheid regime that deprived rural masses of their right to land. Yes. And now they've got audacity to tell us that, you know, those rural people have nothing. They forget to tell the truth, that as a direct result of the situation in which rural masses find themselves is because your forebears and your successors stole this land. 87% of the land is in your illegitimate hands. We are only doing what we can do for the mere 13%. And again, even the farmers that we are talking about, they are actually, as the member from the Patriotic Alliance stated yesterday, the truth. And when you were actually articulating this day, the lies told you that in fact you have suppressed the farm workers to be your labor tenants, and you deny them the right even to bury their deceased person. And shame on you. And again, let me tell you, Agri-SA and the Black Farmers Union, I hope my leader from the Eastern Cape who was misled to join this unfortunate chorus, and as well as the National House of Traditional Leaders and Khoisan leaders, and the commercial banks met 5 years ago, and they decided to come out with a model to really kickstart rural economy. And Matipe Foundation has done it. You seem to be living in the past, continue to live in that past, and because the people and the progressive forces in the country are taking advantage of the policies of the ANC. The attack on police is unfortunate, Chair. You know, police, how many policemen have died defending you, defending even the haves in this country? And you dare say that, no, the police are actually running away from criminals. When you, true Honorable Godsell, said that, no, these police are now killers. When the police were attacked by the killers and they had to defend themselves. And you have been complaining there. So clearly,
Chairperson,
What are you raising?
I'm rising on Rule 61(1)(b). No delegate may deliberately make a statement which the delegate knows to be false. I never made a statement like that.
Chair, again, the honorable member is not honest. The Hansard can be visited. He knows he did it. And I insist, I'm not deliberate in misleading this House.
Chairperson,
this is what he stated.
The Speaker was asleep at his desk earlier today. I did not make that statement. And I would ask him now to withdraw it. And he must rule on it, please.
All right, thank you, Honorable Counsel. I think that we are on a fix here. You said you didn't say it. He said, no, man. Honorable Badenhorst, please. I know, Honorable Badenhorst, please. We are not a co-chair person here, man. We are not a co-chair person here. We are not a co-chair person here. Please behave. Please behave. I'm ruling here. Hey, Ivan. Hey. No. Look here, Honorable Counsel. Honorable Counsel, I think I've heard your point of order as you are raising it. What I'm comfortable with, you are very specific on what area. But very unfortunately, I was not sharing here during that time, and then he said he didn't say it. But what you can do is that we are going to refer this thing to the Hansard. By tomorrow or next week, I'll come with a ruling. Please.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, perhaps let me just make it clear so that I'm not misunderstood. I never said he said it today. All I said here in this house previously. And no, I'm not backtracking. No, he said, but I never said it is today.
Please. I have made a ruling here.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
I have made a ruling. No, Honorable Consent, please take a seat.
Chairperson, he is now, I rise again on Rule 61(1)(b). He has now backtracked and said, I said it at some other time. I have never in this house made a statement like that, and I would like a ruling.
All right, as I said, Honorable Consent, that we are going to add to the, because we are going to look at the Hansard of what transpired today, and then I'll come with a ruling in my earliest convenience. Please.
I just want to make sure, Chairperson, you understand it's 2 requests for a ruling. The second one
Point of order, Chair.
is that the chair is that
Point
the
of order,
second one
Chair.
says, I said it previously. I have never
Point
said
of
it.
order, Chair.
But
All right, Honorable, sorry, I've made a ruling on that one, we have passed with it. Ne? Honorable Farmer.
Chairperson.
Honorable Ego, please give Mr. Farmer a chance to make his point of order. No. You can quote a rule or quote a principle. Please, he has not said anything up to now. Let us give him a chance.
Be consistent. I do it, you want the rule number.
All right, who?
Yes. When I stand up.
Over to you, Honorable Farmer.
Chairperson, you as the chairperson should not allow back and forth after you made a ruling.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Exactly. Exactly. That's why I was calling your point of order is sustained, Mr. Farmer. It's true. The members cannot throw to each other anything. Over to Honorable Nkonyan.
Thank you, Chair. Can my minutes be reinstated? I'm now on the negative, yet I was on the positive. Please.
Sorry, your time is.
Honorable Chair.
Honorable Nkoyan, I'm sharing here. I did see that you provide accordingly. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members. I'm happy that the DA is suddenly becoming hot under the collar, and but I will continue. And the more worrying thing, Chair, before I conclude, Tina Pazlalin, mhlala ngaphambili. Siyayazi inhlalo yethu ebesihlala ngayo ngaphambili. Imbi kakhulu. And ngoku sithengiselwa nembewu ngabo ekuthiwa ngudlambuqe. Asikwazi ngoku ukuba ngembewu.
Can we get translation, please?
Honorable Parenost.
We can't understand what he's saying. No translator.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Please, Honorable Kosel, go when he speaks in Xhosa, go to channel 2. That's where the interpretation is. Please. Over to Honorable Nkoyan. I think we have disrupted Honorable Nkoyan enough. Let us give him a chance to finish his speech.
Mhlali ngaphambili malungu abekileyo ndithi iDA kunye neFreedom Front Plus ndiyadana into kokokuba bathi hayi akukho nto yenziwayo ezilalini ekubeni ndibamemile njenge-ANC into kokokuba izani sakhe iyabonakala ke mhlali ngaphambili ke ngoku into yoba bahlulekile kwangoku mabahambeke xa behluleka thina sizawuqhubeka sincede abantu bakokwethu ezilalini bakwazi ukulima imbewu babe neziswenye imbewu engazuphela kulo nyaka inikwihagu ikwazi uphinde balime nakunyaka ozayo yonke lento bayenzayo yenziwa ngabo sithina khasa urhulumente wabantu we-African National Congress aqhubeke nokunceda abantu bakokwethu. And bathetha ngentshona koloni batho abazapha e-Eastern Cape, e-Western Cape. Mandiyithethe into yokokuba i-Western Cape abathetha ngayo bathetha ngendawo zabo zabantu abamhlophe. Abantu bakokwethu abahlala ekhaya elitsha nakwezinye iindawo abathethi ngabo, nabasezilalini abathethi ngabo. Sizobonana kunyaka ozayo kwivoti sinibonise into yokokuba aba bantu balapha bazawubuyela kumbutho wesizwe i-African National Congress. And ndiyafuna ke ukutsho ndiyafuna ke mhlawumbi ngaphambili ukutsho ukuthi eneneni siyambulela urhulumente wabantu i-ANC ngento ayenzileyo. Iinkulungwana ngeenkulungwana zeminyaka sicinezelwe ngaba bakrweliweyo and bahamba ngoku bathetha le nto bayithethayo and kuyafuneka into kokuba sithi gqolo ukuqinisekela. Ndiyavuya Honorable Brits, you have raised this matter because you have actually asked us to see two colors of DA. Thank you for that. Otherwise, your presupposition is factually incorrect. Let me tell you, I'll leave this to you. I hope when you respond, you will have regards to this paper, which set out clearly that what the ANC has done in terms of changing the lives of the people living in rural areas and actually delivering a better life to all. Thank you, Chair.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Very much.
Chairperson, no, I would like to ask Nkosi if I can ask a question.
Honorable Nkosi, will you take a question?
Met plaisir.
All right, I just want to find out, Nkosi, the village that you are from, is there running water?
Yes.
So factually, you've just lied.
Honorable Delegate. All right, thank you, Honorable Nkosi Unonkanyana. Can the naughty corner, please? Can the naughty corner, please? Keep quiet a little bit. Oh, thank you, Honorable Nonkonyana, for your articulation of the policies which you believe in. But really, the next person now on the program is going to be Honorable Brett, the sponsor of the motion. Over to Honorable Brett.
If my time can just be reset. Thank you so much, Honourable Chair. I think the question should have been, is there running water in the taps and not is there water? But anyway, let me start by thanking the honourable members and specifically the Deputy Minister for participating in this debate. For 30 years, our rural economies or communities have been left to fend for themselves. And Honourable Nkosi Mkunyana, you might reject the statement of this debate, but all your previous members acknowledged the challenges and did not deny what was happening in rural areas. Your remarks about the FF+, however, are in fact rejected with the contempt it deserves. I firmly believe that if we work together to address, amongst others, rural safety first and foremost, as Honourable Gotzel said, it is the foundation of our rural communities, and then the other challenges with this sector, we will be on track to, as and we will be on track. Honourable Mananiso, your input about NGOs is well noted, and I agree they need to play an important role. Honourable Mokoena, after yesterday's disagreement, I'm sorry she's not here, we can agree on one thing, and that what is happening in our rural communities is a humanitarian tragedy. Rural communities have always drawn the shortest straw, if you look at the stats. In 2022, 6 out of every 10 children in the poorest income quintile lived in rural areas. And the next few stats make this even more alarming. Honourable Madupe, you made mention of this earlier, but I feel it needs to be highlighted. In 2021, female-headed households were most common in rural areas, making up 47.7% of households. Also in 2021, women earned 78 cents for every rand earned by men, down from 89 cents in 2008. We therefore have poorer communities made poorer by the gender disparity pay gap and having the extra burden of having to raise children alone. No matter how you look at it, that is bad. Honourable Mananiso, and well, actually all ANC speakers, in 30 years of ANC rule, the ANC has not managed to provide sufficient basic services or housing to communities in rural areas. That is a fact. That is nobody else's fault but your own, because the ANC were more interested in lining their own pockets than addressing poverty, than improving the lives of our citizens. Agbare farmer, jy is 100% korrek. Toegang tot moderne tegnologie soos internet is skaars op die platteland, soos ons gesien het met die agbare Lenkopane, en hou ons mense terug om ten volle deel te neem aan die 4de industriële revolusie. When looking at crime, the picture is bleak, but a positive is that all the speakers today prioritized it. Honourable Peter, I think your frustration is a collective frustration of the GNU. Rural areas have often higher rates of crime than urban areas. In South Africa, the overall crime rate dropped after the COVID-19 restrictions. However, South Africa is still considered the second most dangerous place in the world for serious crimes. Rural communities in South Africa are facing challenges in combating crime due to limited resources and bureaucratic hurdles. And in the absentia of the DM, I welcome the improvement of the RSS, and I will make sure he receives the list of our police stations. Honourable Nkonyana, how many farmers have died to put foods on our tables? Furthermore, agriculture's contribution to the GDP in the country decreased from 22 to 23 by 0.3%. And it might not sound significant, but every decline adds up because looking at 2024, agriculture's GDP contribution decreased in the second quarter from the first quarter with 2.7%. We cannot afford to be a growing population with a decreasing agricultural sector. Honourable Adriaanse is correct when she says that playing politics will only hurt the exact people we are supposed to be protecting. We need to get down to business, not cheap politicking. Honourable Zondi, I invite you to visit the Free State. There is no discrimination with regards to service delivery because nobody receives it, no matter the colour of your skin. The pulse of rural communities echoes through the veins of our nation. Whether we acknowledge it or not, they sustain the agricultural lifeblood that nourishes us all. I am almost finished, Chair. If this heartbeat falters, the nation risks unraveling, and with it, the spectre of hunger looms. The strength of the fields is not just their own, it is the rhythm of our survival. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Brett, for the issues you raised today. And you could see that it makes a lot of people to be hot under the collar, which is natural. I think that, which is natural. But what is very important is that as South Africans, we discussed and articulated our different views. So what is critical here, really, I think that this debate was very successful. I'm very appreciative of the inputs which were made. Yeah. You're out of order. So what is critical here is that the business of the House is concluded. The House is agenda. Thank you.
Recording stopped.